Greetings and welcome. We are in Junior English, and our objective for the hour is to continue with our comments on Walt Whitman. And more particularly, we're going to now look at a different passage from Song of Myself. We have already looked at passage 1 and a little bit at passage 6. The child came to me fetching the grass and asked, "What is the grass?" I said to him, "How could I know?" We've already been introduced to Whitman as radical. Now let's talk about Whitman as radical educator. And we're going to use an important word here for your notes. That word is pedagogy. P-E-D-A-G-O-G-Y. Pedagogy. P-E-D-A-G-O-G-Y. The word means how you teach or how you learn something. Okay? Pedagogy. Peda of or related to children. Goji of or related to instruction. So in other words, how you instruct or how you teach children. And the challenge for us here now is to take a look at a passage from Song of Myself, passage 46-47. That's what we're going to call this. Passage 46-47. That is to say, we'll look at the entirety of passage 46. We will look at the opening lines of passage 47. And we will constitute this now as Whitman's strongest example of pedagogy. Now, just to remind, Whitman was an educator himself. In this poem, he will take the voice of an educator. Write that on your notes. In this poem, he will take the voice of an educator, and he will be speaking to you, the student. He will speak of learning using two important word pictures. The first word picture will be walking, taking a long hike or journey. The second word picture will be swimming. In both counts, he will use both walking and swimming as a metaphor for learning. Now, let's get it out of the way right now. I already said to you, Whitman is radical. So some of the stuff he's going to say in here about learning, it's going to be radical. It was radical for 1855. For one or two of our students today, it's still kind of radical. Let's take a look at what he has to say. As we often exegete, we will read aloud, then we will come back to begin the process of trying to understand better what it is we're reading. I know I have the best of time and space, and was never measured, and never will be measured. I tramp a perpetual journey. Come, listen all. My signs are a rainproof coat, good shoes, and a staff cut from the woods. No friend of mine takes his ease in my chair. I have no chair, no church, no philosophy. I lead no man to a dinner table, library exchange. But each man and each woman of you I lead upon a knoll. My left hand hooking you round the waist, my right hand pointing to landscapes and continents and the public road. Not I. Not anyone else can travel that road for you. You must travel it for yourself. It's not far, it's within reach. Perhaps you've been on it since you were born and did not know. Perhaps it's everywhere, on water and on land. Shoulder your duds, dear son, and I will mine, and let us hasten forth. Wonderful cities and free nations we will fetch as we go. If you tire, give me both burdens, and rest the chuff of your hand on my hip, and in due time you shall repay the same service to me. For after we start, we never lie by again. This day, before dawn, I ascended a hill and looked at the crowded heaven, and I said to my spirit, when we become the enfolders of those orbs and the pleasure and knowledge of everything in them, shall we be filled and satisfied then? And my spirit said, no, we but level that live to pass and continue beyond. You are also asking me questions, and I hear you. I answer that I cannot answer. You must find out for yourself. Sit a while, dear son. Here are biscuits to eat, here's milk to drink. But as soon as you sleep and renew yourself in sweet clothes, I kiss you with a goodbye kiss and open the gate for your egress hence. Long enough have you dreamed contemptible dreams. Now I wash the gum from your eyes. You must habit yourself to the dazzle of the light and of every moment of your life. Long have you timidly waited, holding a plank by the shore. Now I will you to be a bold swimmer, to jump off in the midst of the sea rise again, nod to me, shout and laughingly dash with the hair. I am the teacher of athletes. He that by me spreads a wider breast than my own proves the width of my own. He most honors my style, who learns under it to destroy the teacher. Now let's go back and exegete quickly. We are working on the actual page. What do we call that? What kind of annotation? Internal annotation. You also have, of course, your annotations that are external annotations, taking notes. And let's try to understand a little bit of, are we ready again with that word? Whitman's what? Pedagogy. Whitman's pedagogy. In other words, what is it that Whitman understands is the best way for students to learn, best ways for teachers to teach? Let's take a look. Some of this may be a little bit radical even for today. Notice he begins by saying, I know I have the best of time and space and was never measured and never will be measured. Optimism or pessimism? You write it down. Optimism or pessimism? What does he say right away? He says, I live in the very best of times. Time will never be better. Notice how we as students often imagine, if only I can get to, and it's someplace in the future. Whitman says, learning to live in the present now is the only time you have to live. The past, of course, you cannot change, and the future is nothing more than a dream. Notice he says, I tramp. That means to walk. You might want to circle that word. A perpetual journey. Let's say it out loud. This is what we call lifelong learning. In other words, we're always learning. There never comes a point when we stop learning. It's really important that you put in your notes that Whitman makes a distinction between school and education. They are not the same thing for him. Education is something that goes beyond school. You do it your whole life. Not just for the few years, for example, that you're in high school. Notice he says there are certain ways to identify him. Do you see them? A rainproof coat, good shoes, a staff cut from the woods. All of this, of course, to allow him to survive the elements. Why? Because he's taking a walk outside, right? He says that he doesn't take anyone, no friend, to ease in a chair. That is to say, you're not going to learn what Whitman has to teach by reading a book. You're not going to learn what Whitman has to teach by going to certain kinds of schools where you learn philosophy, or to churches where you learn certain kinds of religious views. He says, I don't take you there. Instead, he says, I lead you up on a knoll. Now, that's a word you may want to circle. What is a knoll? A little grassy hill. It's like taking students outside of Worland onto Rattlesnake Ridge and allowing students to then look at the vista. What does that word mean? The vista means what? The view. The view. That is to say, you can see out into the distance. He says this is what he does to his students. My left hand hooking you around the waist, my right hand pointing to landscapes of continents in the public road. Put it in your own notes right there on the paper. Already, what is the job of the teacher for the student? Put it in your own words. Job of the teacher is to do what? What would you say? Job of the teacher is to do what? You've already seen it. We're speaking in metaphor. He will take the student to the hill, and he will show the student.
Show the student to learn.
There you go. The job of the teacher is to give the student some idea of the road ahead. That is to say, the life you are about to live. Okay? Notice what he says about this road. Not I, not anyone else can travel that road for you. You must travel it for yourself. Are you ready for this? What you've been saying all your life, it's my life and I'll live it the way I want to, is 100% absolutely true. Not one person can make you do what you do not want to do. Not one. No parent, no teacher, no coach. Until you choose to learn, you will never learn. Until you choose to go on the journey of your life, nobody can do it for you. I've had juniors that say, you know, it's kind of true. I guess I never really thought about that, but I've spent my whole life waiting for other people to tell me what to do and seeking their approval or worrying about their disapproval. Whitman says, you got to live this life through all yours. Guess what, though? Since it's your life, it's your responsibility for the choices. You make the wrong choices, you screw it up. That's the advantage of somebody telling you what to do. That way when you screw up, you have somebody to blame. Whitman says, There's no blaming here. It is your life, and you must travel it on your own. Notice he says about this road that it's not far, it's within reach, and perhaps you've been on it all since you were born and didn't know it. Let's point out, that's irony. You have been on it since you were born. Your journey started at conception, and it has not finished, right? It's not like we're waiting to graduate so we can start living our life. Whitman says, you've been living your life to this point, unless, of course, you haven't. And then maybe your life's been living you. To that degree, he asks an intriguing question. When are you actually going to start living your life on your terms? When is that going to happen? Because it's time, he says. The job of the teacher is to help the student get ready to take the journey. Notice what he says. Shoulder your duds. By the way, you might want to circle the word duds. Duds here means your backpack. Right? Shoulder your duds, dear son, and I will mine, and let us hasten forth. Wonderful cities and free nations we will fetch as we go. In other words, we're going on a journey that we're never going to come back from. Notice he says, if you tire, give me both burdens and rest the chuff of your hand on my hip. And in due time, you shall repay the same service to me. For after we start, we never lie by again. What's the relationship between the teacher and the student? Write it down. He says, we're taking this journey together. At certain points, the student will get tired. The job of the teacher is to do what?
To help them
carry the student's backpack. Help the student. But notice what he says, interestingly. Don't worry. Later on, what? You get to repay the dues. That's right. You'll get to repay. The roles get to be reversed later on in life. Very interesting. Think of it this way. Your parents take care of you for a while.
And then they get old and you take care of them.
It's the way it works, isn't it? That's the way it works. For some of you to say, well, I don't have parents, or I'm not going to take care of my parents. You missed the point. You got to take care of all the people who right now are taking care of you later, because we're all going to get old. And at some point, you're going to be as old as this old man. Of course, by that point, you can do the quick mathematics. Add 20 or 25 or more years onto the age of your parents, and that's right about the time you hit your stride, economically speaking. How old will your parents be? And whose job will it be to take care of them? You got it. You got it. Right? He makes the observation that morning he got up and he went and he looked at the stars. Read with me. Stay focused. No monkey mind. And I said to my spirit, when we become the enfolders of those orbs and the pleasure and knowledge of everything in them, when we finally learn everything, when we finally understand everything that's in the books, will we be satisfied then? And look what his spirit says back to him. What does his spirit say back to him? Can you ever get to a point in your life where you've learned everything? No. There's always something else to be learned. There's always something more to be learned. I've had juniors after the fact who realize every time they ever said about their life that it was boring, they were cursing themselves. Of course your life isn't boring. What an incredibly insane thing to say. Your life is your adventure. How could it be boring? It's only boring if you choose it to be that way. Let's talk about choice, shall we? You are also asking me questions. That's the job of the student, to ask teacher questions, correct? And I hear you. I answer. I cannot answer. You must find out for yourself. Mr. McGee, what should I do after I graduate? That's right. That's right. No, you don't understand. I really need you to tell me, what should I do? That's absolutely right. Mr. McGee, you are frustrating me. I want the answer. I completely agree with that. I thought the job of a teacher was to answer questions. Right. That is very frustrating. Right. Go back and look at it again. You are asking questions. I hear you. I answer, I cannot answer. Why not? Why can't a teacher or a parent or a coach in the end answer the most important questions for your life? Why not? It's your life. You have to finally, in the end, take the answer. Of course, Mr. Carr makes an interesting observation. Teachers can give all the advice, but sooner or later, what? You got to make the decision, right? Keep reading. Said a while, dear son, here's biscuits to eat, food to, milk to drink. As soon as you sleep and renew yourself in sweet clothes, I kiss you with a goodbye kiss and open the gate for your egress. That means exit hence. The job of the teacher is to only work with the student for a brief period of time, and then it's time for the student to do what? Go bye-bye. That's right. Go bye-bye. That is to say, it comes time. Of course, hello, we learn this at a young age. You can't go to the park as a 5-year-old and stay there forever. Sooner or later, you got to get, taken to the van. See, that's the reality. You can't stay in high school forever. Sooner or later, there comes a moment when you have to start living your life, right? And that's inevitably coming, whether we want it to or not. All right, here we go. Now, this is the memory passage. We're going to be putting this one to memory. Let's look at it now. Long enough have you dreamed contemptible dreams. Go ahead and circle the word contemptible. What does that word mean to you, Mortimer? Contemptible. If he says, I don't want to hear any more about contemptible dreams. We don't use that term today. What do we call it? A bad dream is called a what? A nightmare. Good, let's write it down. He says, I'm done with you dreaming nightmares. Is he speaking literally or metaphorically? Clearly metaphorically here. I'm done with you dreaming nightmares. You must, now I wash the gum from your eyes. This isn't going to make any sense until I help you. We're not talking about chewing gum. Whitman lives in New York, upstate New York. Now, if you ever went to the mountains to cut your own Christmas tree, and you grabbed hold of one of those trees, and you got that stuff on your hands, we don't call it gum out here. What do we call it? Sap. It's called sap out here in the West. We call it sap. Back in the East Coast, they call it gum. If you were to take a bunch of that sticky sap stuff and put it on your eyes, how well would you be able to see? See, you couldn't see very well. Follow the word picture. Go back to it. Now I wash the gum from your eyes. What's the job of the teacher? Help the student see correctly. See correctly. You must habit yourself. That means become accustomed to. You must habit yourself to the dazzle of the light and of every moment of your life. That is to say, it's time for you to recognize how unbelievably precious your life is. Every day. Every day. It's precious. Because you don't have much for time. If you don't believe me, go find a picture of yourself in 9th grade. That was 3 years ago. And already you've changed dramatically since then. 3 years from now, wow, you're halfway to 40. Think about that. Right? Long, another interesting word picture. I noticed the shift here. Interesting word picture. Long have you timidly waited, holding a plank by the shore. Here's the picture. You're standing next to the shoreline. You have this little piece of wood in your hand, and you're walking back and forth in the shallow water. Why do you got wood in your hand? Because you're scared. What's the wood going to do? It's going to help you to float. So that way you don't drown. You're walking back and forth, holding on to your little piece of wood. Read it again. Long have you timidly waited, holding a plank by the shore. Now I will you. You might want to circle the word will and write the word dare. That's our word today, dare. Now I dare you, or I will you, to be a bold swimmer, to jump off in the midst of the sea, that's the middle of the sea, rise again, nod to me, shout, and laughingly dash with your hair. In other words, what does he say about this plank you're holding by the side of the... What's he say about this plank? He says, get rid of the plank. You got to get rid of the plank. You can't play it safe. And then secondly, he says, the job of the teacher is to stand on the shore and watch the student do what? Go out where and go swimming? Not in the safe part. Go out into the middle of the ocean and go swimming. Keep reading. I am the teacher of athletes. Put it in your notes here. He says, I'm the swimming coach. He that by me spreads a wider breast than my own proves the width of my own. Now, Braxton, are you at all familiar with when you swim, you push the water and it creates like a little wave? We call that the breast of the water. Go back and look at it again. He that by me, the teacher, spreads a wider breast than my own, proves the width of my own. I don't understand. He most honors me. He most honors my style. Who learns under it to destroy the teacher. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Did Whitman just say load up 12 gauges and shoot all your teachers? I don't think so. Wait. What's he saying here?
Take what they taught you and become greater than them.
The teacher teaches you how to swim, but you actually can outswim the teacher. It's the job of the teacher to make the student better than the teacher. And when the student shows the teacher up, asks a question that, for example, the teacher doesn't know, the teacher is supposed to say, yes, you've actually done it better than me, and the teacher's supposed to be happy about that. Question, The adults in your life, when you show them up, do they find that to be a good thing or a not so good thing? I remember a mom who came in for a parent-teacher conference, and she said, my daughter is completely uncontrollable. She has her own will. She has her own mind. I can't talk to her because she's always got these questions I can't answer. And I said back to her, let me congratulate you on being such an amazing parent. And she said, no, you don't understand. I'm a crappy parent. Didn't you just hear what I just said? And I said, do you really want your daughter to be a complete robot that does everything you tell her to do? Really? That's what you want. That's what you want to raise. The job of the teacher or the adult is to raise young people that do it better. And then the teacher's job is to celebrate that. You're actually supposed to be better than your coaches. You're supposed to be better than your teachers. That's the job of the teacher, is to make you better. And in the process, destroying the teacher. Which means what? To destroy the teacher here means what?
Be better than
Go beyond, be better. Because the world you're going to live in the future is a different world from the world your teachers grew up in. Have you understood this yet? It's a different world. It's a completely different world.
It'll leave you behind.
The world will leave you behind if you're not on the journey. A fine observation. All right, guys, there you go. Passage 46-47, Whitman is radical teacher.